Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Alight School Nowshera campus. It's our biology class today, biology for grade 10th. Our topic is symbiosis on page number 132. The last lesson which we learned was about the community interaction, or simply we can say we learned about the interactions in ecosystem. These interactions were among the biotic factors. And we said that there are two types of interactions. These two types are, one is interspecific interaction and other is intraspecific interaction. Intraspecific interaction is among the same species of organisms, whereas interaction is among different species of organisms. And then we said that there are three types of interactions. These are number one, which is three main types, right? Number one, which is known as competition. Second being as predation. And third one is symbiosis. I had explained competition and predation completely, and there we knew that we got to know that competition is usually for the survival of an organism or of a species, whereas predation is the killing process or the being killed process, right? Today's topic is symbiosis. The word symbiosis means living together. Living together. So as the name shows clearly, that symbiosis would be the interaction between different types of species which live together. Right? One body will be a host always. Which body will be the host, or which organism will be the host? That one on which the other organism will live. One would be host and the other organism will live over it, right? So we call it as symbiosis. Now the symbiotic relationships are of three main types. What happens in these three types? Number one, that either both will be benefited. Both will get benefit. Both the species involved in the interaction will get benefit, right? So this means that in one type of symbiosis, benefit would be given to both species involved. Whereas the second type is that one species would be benefited, one would get benefit, whereas the other would be harmed, right? And the third type is that one will get benefit and the second would not be affected at all. So if you look over here in symbiosis, it's important that at least one of the species involved in an interaction would be or would get benefit, right? So coming towards the types of the symbiosis, so the very first type of symbiosis where both of them would get benefit is called as mutualism, right? Mutual means two, close together. Okay. So if you remember our nitrogen cycle, we discussed there that there are some leguminous plants and there is a bacteria. The name of the bacteria is rhizobium. So what happens there? That rhizobium is a bacteria, and this bacteria resides or lives in the roots of leguminous plants like pea. In this case, if you remember, we discussed that what happens that the bacteria or rhizobium, it captures nitrogen or molecular nitrogen from the environment and changes it into ammonium. Then this ammonium is given to the roots, or it is absorbed by the roots of the plants. What happens that these roots or these leguminous plants get this ammonium, it changes it into organic compounds, it feeds itself as well as it gives that organic compound to the bacteria. And so both depend on each other, both are dependent over each other, right? Bacteria depends over the leguminous plants, whereas leguminous plant depends on rhizobium, and both are giving benefit to the other. So we say that is which type of relationship? Is mutualism. Okay. Coming towards one other example. Another example is of termites and protists. Termites are small flea-type organisms which eat wood. They eat wood from inside, finishes the wood. And protists lie over these termites. They lie over the termites because they are quite having an improper nucleus and cannot perform all of the functions which do really they need. So what happens that they lie over termites in their gut, or you can say intestine, right? So termites feed on wood, eats that wood. So the wood has a very hard substance that is known as cellulose. Now termites are also very small organisms. Their intestine isn't that much, or their gut isn't that much advanced that will digest cellulose. So now they need to digest this cellulose to get energy from it. What happens that these protists digest the cellulose, and when the cellulose is digested, then the energy goes to termites. So what happens? Number one, protists are helpful for termites. But how termites are helpful for protists? That is that they are giving a habitat or a place to live. So termites depend on protists for what purpose? For digestion of cellulose, right? And then these protists depend on termites for taking the energy, or we can say food, as well as shelter or place to live, right? Another example which is quite obvious in all living organisms, that is the beneficial bacteria inside our intestines. The bacteria which are in our body. It's not only the bacteria, the protists are not only present in termites, but we are also having some bacteria in our intestine. So we are providing shelter to this bacteria. We are providing food to these bacteria because obviously they would require something from our body. We'll give them, and in turns these bacteria produce. So food is given by us, shelter is given by us, a proper environment is given by us. But what happens? What do they give us? They give us vitamin K. And this vitamin K is essential for blood clotting. To clot the blood, or whenever we have a cut, so our blood flows. If there was no vitamin K, our blood will continue to flow until and unless our all body, this blood gets finished. So vitamin K is very important inside our body because it helps in the clotting of blood, right? So what do how is it provided to us? That is provided to us by bacteria. And what in turns we give to bacteria, that is food, shelter. So this means that bacteria and we are playing a mutual role. Termites and protists are playing a mutual role. Similarly, rhizobium and leguminous plants are playing a mutual role. So it's not only the case in all these three, but we can get more examples as well, right? Coming towards the other type, that is in which that interaction in which one will get benefit whereas second will be harmed. This type is called as parasitism. Parasitism. Okay, so in parasitism, the same is the case. There would be a host and there would be another organism or individual which will attach itself or which will have interaction with this host, right? So that organism which feed on it or which harms, that is called as parasite. So what happens, that parasite gets its food, its nourishment from the host, whereas the host in turn loses all the nourishment and don't want to give the nourishment because it wants that blood or that those minerals inside it, but it cannot make them or make that blood stay inside it. Why? Because of the attack of parasite. So what happens, that parasite attaches itself to the host's body and then feeds on it. If you have noticed lices, what happens to the lice? Lice are found on the skin where there are many hairy skins, right? So what happens, that these lice just suck our head or the skin. They suck it. They feed on our blood. But in turns, they do not give us any benefit. And what do? They suck the blood from us, and so we become shortened with the blood, right? Not only lices, but there are many more examples as well. For example, aphids. So what is aphids? Aphids are plant-sucking. Aphids are plant-sucking organisms, plant-sucking parasites. They reside over plants and suck their nutrients from them. As a result, the plant slowly, steadily shrinks and it loses all its nourishment and it dies, whereas the parasite gets its benefit from it. Then when the plant dies, it goes on it bears on other plant and then it sucks all the nourishment from there. So this is the case of parasites, that parasites attaches themselves to hosts. There is another example, that is of leech. Leeches are small organisms, small we can say insect type organisms. They are found on the sides of oceans. People who live beside oceans, they have this parasitic what we can say, the harmfulness or the harm which is caused by parasite, that is called as infestation. Okay, so all the diseases caused by parasites is known as infestation. So the infestation at the ocean side is mainly because of the parasitic attachment of leech, right? What do the leech do? Leech sucks all the blood from the body through the feet or through their suckers. Okay. Similarly, there is another example, that is mosquito. So mosquito feed on our body, feed on our blood, but in turn we get harmed. Okay. Now coming towards our third way. The third form is, what is that? That is in which one get benefit and the second is not affected at all. It doesn't get any benefit, nor it is harmed, right? So that type is then called as commensalism. Commensalism, in which one get benefit only. Okay. So the example of commensalism are ornamental plants. Ornamental plants like what's the example can be? It's orchids, like orchids. So orchids are ornamental plants. Suppose this is a tree, another tree, and what happens that there small orchids come and they lie over them. What happens that these orchids do not have chlorophyll. They cannot prepare their own food. So they attaches themselves to the body, to the other organism, and then they take food from them. But as these organisms are found over large trees, large bodies, so these large bodies are then not affected by these small tiny plants, right? Same is the case with some barnacles. What are barnacles? Barnacles are small crustaceans, small insect type fish, not fish but crustacean, but you can say it as fish. So what happens that these barnacles lie over other large fish. For example, just take as whale. So as whale is a quite large body, a few barnacles over it will not affect this whale, but this barnacle will get its nutrition from the fish, right? Here in your book, let's see, this is the example of the orchids. See, it's a tree and this tree is bearing some orchids or allowing some orchids to live over it. Okay, here if you see a word that is epiphytic. So the word epiphyt means on or above or outside, whereas phytic means plants. So those plants or those organisms which are found on the plants, right? And this is barnacle. Barnacles are found over the whale. Alright, so it was commensalism. In commensalism, only one of the organism gets benefit, whereas other is not affected at all. Alright, children, thank you very much. Have a good day ahead. Bye. Take care.